Hello Eurovision fans and Måneskin fans, thank you so much for coming to my channel Eurovision Histories. Today I want to analyze and interpret the lyrics of Zitti, BUONI, the Eurovision winning song of 2021 by Måneskin, of course. It has become my favorite song over the last 2 years. I have listened to it over 700 times. It just helped me through a few down times and also gave me lots of energy. Every time I listen to it, it gives me lots of energy, whether it's in the gym or somewhere else. I just love this song and I want to tell you what I see in the lyrics, what I think the lyrics are about. I think there are references to Greek mythology, criticism of society, references to the background of the band members as well. So lots of things to discover. Let's get right to it and let's start talking about the title, Zitti e buoni. So Zitti means quiet and buoni means good. And it is a phrase that is used in Italy, for example, by teachers in class. If you're not behaving, they would say Zitti e buoni. Be calm and listen to what I'm saying, basically. Or your mom might also say it to you if you're not behaving the way you should. And so I think it is figuratively a criticism of society, telling young people to conform to the rules of society, to the limits of society as well, to the opinion of the majority, and not to live life in their own way. So the song calls out the adults and the fakers and calls on young generations to live their life the way they want to live it. And it is quintessentially rock in this rebellion against the conservative majority and also this feeling of being outsiders, of not fitting into society and having to find a way to live in a society that you feel doesn't understand you. So Måneskin says one should not feel lonely or wrong because perhaps one is different or is mocked by what is the majority, but rather one should try to make it a strength. And arguably these lyrics make sense, especially in the Italian context where youth unemployment is higher than in other countries, where the population skews especially older because of a low birth rate. And Italy is also one of the more conservative societies in Western Europe, especially. For example, it's the only Western European country really that still doesn't have same-sex marriage, for example. And there are many references in the lyrics to them being outsiders and not being understood by society. For example, at the very beginning of the song, they sing, "They don't know what I am talking about." They, of course, referencing the majority in society. Dirty clothes, bro dude, full of mud. This bro dude is my translation of fra, which is short for fratello, which means brother. So even in the language that is used in this song, you can see that they are distinguishing themselves from the majority in society that would not use this slang like bro or dude. They are young, they are rebellious, and they use this kind of language. And then yellow from the cigarette between my fingers, me walking with the cigarette, and this whole picture being painted, dirty clothes, full of mud. He has a cigarette between his fingers. He is yellow, maybe his hands or his teeth are yellow from smoking cigarettes. And you can kind of imagine an Italian grandma looking at him on the street and being like, the youth of today, they're really not accepting society and the norms that we lived by when I was younger or something like that. So it really paints an interesting picture of the youth being disengaged with society. And then too many nights I spent locked outside. Sorry, mom, that I'm always out. Basically calling himself an outsider. And then the sorry mom that I'm always out, he takes the out and uses it in the chorus, which comes right after this. I am out of my mind, but different from them. You are out of your mind, but different from them. We are out of our minds, but different from them. So basically saying we might be seen as crazy, but these other people are also out of their mind, just in a different way. I really like that. And then something I find quite genius because they use Italian grammar to get their point across. So he sings in the first verse, sono diverso da loro, I am different from them, talking about himself. So probably Damiano talking about himself. Then he directs it at someone else. You are out of your mind, but different from them. But he uses diversa, which means it's a woman. So he's probably singing it to Victoria. And then in the last part, he sings, siamo fuori di testa, ma diversi da loro. So he's using the plural now, talking about the band as a whole, I guess, all of its members, quite geniusly done. And then there are lots of references to the adults as well, being limited by society. These men in their cars don't climb the rapids, go against the rapids. So despite the fact that they have cars that can help them climb the rapids, they don't do it because they are subdued, I guess, by societal norms. And then out with the actors, one interpretation might be out with the fake people that we don't need, but I also have a different interpretation I will mention in a minute. And then the most obvious reference to people in society is talk. People talk. Unfortunately, they don't know what they are talking about. So you can kind of imagine people gossiping about young people not adhering to societal norms. And take me where I'm above the water. Here I can breathe. So I'm completely oppressed and pressured by society. Take me somewhere else. And this whole idea of people gossiping, of course, came true when they accused Damiano of doing drugs during the Eurovision final, which turned out to be completely false. But Damiano also believes in himself to be able to withstand the pressures of society. He sings, "Sorry, but I strongly believe that I can make that jump, even if the road is inclining or is a tough climb. That is why I am training now." So he really does believe that he can withstand the pressures of society. And this sentence, "even if the road is inclining or is a tough climb," is an interesting connection to the men in cars not climbing the rapids. So he is different from them. He is trying to do it and live his life the way he wants to. And he's even quite defiant because he says, "If you want to stop me, try again. Try to cut off my head. Because," and then, "I am fuori di testa, I am out of my mind, but different from them." So there's also a reference in the song that they actually had to change for Eurovision, which is touching your own groin area. They call on people to do it, toccarsi I coglioni. And this is a superstition in Italy, which is supposed to give you luck and creative power, a bit like, Michael Jackson did a few times, and also Damiano does during the performance. And a court decided in 2008 that doing this in public is actually a vulgar act. So by calling on people to do it, they're really going against the establishment, literally. So you can interpret the song as youth going against the establishment, but I think there's also a second aspect, especially in the second part of the song, which is you realize that your uniqueness is actually a strength, and that this is actually especially a strength for an artist and for the artist's creativity. And I think there's a bit of a meta interpretation because Måneskin competed with this song, a rock song, in Sanremo. Sanremo is a very traditional Italian music festival, which has been happening every year since the 50s. And traditionally and usually, the winning songs of this festival are ballads, quite slow and quite traditional. And Måneskin really entered that stage performing a rock song and kind of breaking genre limits in that competition. And so when they sing "Too many nights I stayed locked outside, but I'm kicking the doors down, looking towards the top like a climber," the doors that they are kicking down, you could also interpret as genre barriers in the Sanremo festival. You have this part of the lyrics that reference a show. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Out with the actors. You should stay quiet and nice. Here people are weird like drug dealers." So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The ladies and gentlemen could be the audience at Sanremo, because literally Sanremo is held at the Ariston, which is quite an old-fashioned theater. And out with the actors in this case could be Måneskin themselves telling the public to toccarvi I coglioni, what we just talked about, touching the groin area, and also stay quiet and nice. So they're kind of turning it around. Before, the adults told them to be quiet and nice in class, for example. Now they're telling the audience to be quiet and nice and listen to them and give them a chance, basically, with their rock music. And then "here people are weird like drug dealers." They kind of make reference to the urban environment that they grew up in, because they are from Rome. They grew up in the early 2000s, and drug dealers is something that you might see in a big city on the streets. And the album that Zitti BUONI is on is actually called Teatro d'Ira, which is theater of anger. And they said, "Ours is not an anger at anyone, but an anger that stirs, that creates revolutions, a cathartic anger directed at oppressions and oppressors." And they say, "We want to place this very powerful force in a context, that of the theater, which in the common imagination is perceived as elegant and calm." And Sanremo is also perceived as elegant and calm, with people sitting in the audience, and on the stage you have people singing ballads. The curtain opens, and instead of a show or a ballet, we find ourselves catapulted into this explosion of energy. So they are kind of predicting what actually happened at Sanremo, where they entered the stage and this song really was like a breath of fresh air in a long line of more traditional songs. And they continue talking about the artist's inspiration and creativity. I have written page after page, have seen salt and tears. There's no wind that stops the natural power, the power of creativity I see in here. From the correct point of view, you can feel the intoxication brought by the winds. So the uniqueness and the being different gives him a lot of creativity and a lot of force as an artist to create his art. Another reference to artistic euphoria. With my wax wings, I will look for that high. A clear reference to Icarus in Greek mythology, who flies too close to the sun with his wings made of feathers and the wax melts and he falls down. So this euphoria you feel as an artist, you want to reach as high as possible, and you might actually fail, but in the moment it is full of euphoria and creative power. And now this sentence, take me to where I am above the water, here I can breathe, has to me another significance as well. The artist who needs to get out of this stuffy and conservative society to create his art, and that makes him able to breathe. So these are my interpretations and things that I saw in the lyrics of Zitti BUONI. I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments if I got something wrong or if you see something else in these lyrics. And please come back to my channel. I do lots of interpretations like this one and also other videos about Eurovision, Eurovision history. So give me a like if you liked it and come back for my next video if you want to. See you and bye-bye.